Hello, everybody. Welcome to this Twitter Spaces discussion. I'm Mackie, your moderator today, and I'm an editorial associate with the Thomson Foundation. It's International Women's Day, as we know, and we're asking the question, equality versus equity in the media. Have we been wrong all along? So what is equity? What does it look like in a newsroom? And why does it matter? All of these questions and many more besides we hope to answer today, or at least try to. We've got a fantastic panel of guests. I'll introduce them in a moment and let you know also we're collaborating on this discussion today with JoyNews in Ghana, which is operated by the Multimedia Group Limited. And I want to quickly let you know that the Thomson Foundation has launched a network building programme for women working in journalism and media in East Africa. It's called She Leads Media Bettina Fellowship. We'll be working with our partners Baraza Media Lab to provide training and mentoring to women working in different areas of media to empower them to apply for senior roles, shape agenda and grow female audiences. Now, if you're interested in applying, then please follow our social media. We'll be launching the programme shortly. Right, back to today's discussion. We want to hear from you, please. Let us know what you think about equity and equality in the media. What does it mean to you? My colleague Victor from the Thomson Foundation, he's keeping across your questions and can tell you how to get in touch right now. Victor, over to you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our conversation. To be a part of this conversation, kindly share your questions with us using the hashtag Journalism Matters and hashtag Embrace Equity. You can also send us a direct message either at JoyNews on TV, our co-host, or at TomFound, and they will equally be read during the discussion. If you are using the mobile app for Twitter, you can use the microphone icon at the bottom left of your screen, and requests will be accepted at the right time. Thank you very much. Over to you, Catherine.
Thanks, Victor. And can I just please ask the speakers, when you're not speaking, if you wouldn't mind muting your microphone, because we are getting a little bit of feedback. Right, let's meet the panel. Joining us from Nairobi is Dr. Nancy Booker, who's an Associate Professor and the Interim Dean at the Graduate School of Media and Communications at the Aga Khan University. From Ghana, we're hoping to have, he's not yet managed to join us, but we're hoping to have Nana Elegba, who's the Chief HR Officer for the Multimedia Group Limited. And from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province in northwestern Pakistan, Khalida Niaz, who is the Executive Producer at Tribal News Network, or TNN. And Thomson Foundation has actually been working with TNN for the past 3 years, training women journalists in mobile journalism and managerial skills. Welcome, all of you, and thanks very much for joining us. I just want to ask you all briefly, more or less the same question, really, because this idea of equity versus equality can be confusing. So I thought it was actually a good starting point to try and agree what it is we're actually talking about here. Dr. Booker, Nancy Booker, if I can start with you. There is a quote actually on the International Women's Day website which tries to explain just what we mean by equity. It says, equality is giving everyone a shoe. Equity is giving everyone a shoe that fits. I wonder what you think of that and really what you think it means and what equity means for you.
Thank you very much, Catherine, and a good afternoon to all. If you're joining from Nairobi, it's afternoon. I really like that quote because as I reflected on the discussion, equality is where you more or less give everybody what we think is an equal playing field. So we give everybody a shoe. But equity means asking yourself, is this the right shoe? Does it fit right? Is it ill-fitting? And if a shoe is too tight or ill-fitting or is too big, then it's likely to cause, problems to the person that's wearing the shoe. Now, in light of the discussion that we are having this afternoon, is that oftentimes we assume that everybody wants the same thing. So there's a very nice model that I think I've seen on various social media platforms where you sort of like give everybody a stool that has the same height, and you imagine that they will all be able to see what's on the other side. But equity means that you have to look at the height, so to speak, of the person who you're trying to elevate, and ask yourself how much support do they need to be able to see the horizon, and that's what equity is. And for me, the differentiating factor is that it calls for a lot more of understanding, your team, understanding what's the composition of the newsroom, what are the deficiencies in terms of skills or competencies, what sort of experience are different members of the team, bringing into a newsroom environment. And once you're able to understand who the different players are, how differently your team is composed or comprised, then you're able to determine, how you then meet them at their point of either inefficiencies or deficiencies, and build their capacity so that they're all able to perform at the same level. So for me, that's what equity is. In terms of have we gotten it all wrong, from the beginning, I think there's been a lot of emphasis on equality. So when we even talk about, the place of women in leadership within the newsrooms, we ask ourselves, how many are sitting at the table? And we talk about, yes, now we have an X percentage of women sitting in decision making, or at the table where decisions are made. But have we built the capacity of these women? Have we empowered them? Have we developed them in such a way that when they're at a place where they need to make decisions, that they can actually be able to make decisions? So it's not just about the number of women in the newsroom. It's not just about the number of women that we are, that are in media leadership and in decision making. It's also what's the capacity of the women in the newsrooms, and what's the capacity of those women that then are in leadership positions to enable them, make the right decisions.
Thanks, Nancy. Yeah, I think certainly in a few moments we are going to be looking in the real world, really, about what an equitable newsroom looks like. And before I move on, Nana, I think you're listening, Nana Elegba in Ghana, who's one of our panelists. You are a listener currently. Can I just ask you to make yourself a speaker? You can request to be made a speaker. There should be a little button on your phone. Any problems, can you just drop us a quick email or let us know? In the meantime, Khalida, I want to bring you in here. What would an equitable society look like where you live?
Thank you so much, Catherine. First of all, I want to wish all the women. Today is Women's International Day. Happy Women's Day to all. And for me, the equitable society means where all the women they have like, for example, they have their rights. Constitution give them their rights, but unfortunately, our society, our cultural barriers, they are not giving the women their basic rights. For example, if we are talking about the equitable society, so this is not only means women are participation in election, or women are now coming into the field of media, or women are now in every field, but it is also how many women are in on good positions, on that positions from where they can make decisions. And for example, if the women are on good positions, on high level positions, decision making positions, but who are listening them and who are allowing them to take decisions? This is also we can say it will take time. We can see many women who are on good positions, but still they are not getting the right to make decisions. And it is also necessary to, for example, if a woman is she is responsible for something. So she first she should give some sort of trainings or some sort of how can she will be deal with all the problems, with all the hurdles that will faced by her. We can see many women who are on good positions, but still the society is not accepting them as leaders. So this is also really very necessary to aware the people, like women can also make like women can also do good things, and they can be good leaders, and they can be in on high positions, and they can make good decisions.
Thanks, Khalida. There's a lot there that I think we can pick up on throughout this discussion, this idea of empowering women, practical measures, and also changes at the top, how public policy can almost force businesses to rethink how they employ women. Nana Elegba in Ghana, I'm hoping you can hear me and I can hear you. Are you there? Okay, we'll come back to Nana. We seem to have lost him, but hopefully we can come back to him and he can join in the discussion shortly. So we've talked about this idea of what we mean by equity. Nancy, I just want to repeat something you said. I think just so we've got it clear in our minds, really, what we mean by equity as opposed to equality. And it was the idea you gave of three people looking over a fence. So equality would be providing all three of them with a box to stand on so they can see over the fence. But that fails to take into account the varying heights of those people. Someone might need two boxes to see over a fence. Another person might need a ramp if they're in a wheelchair. Now that means that's equity. That's understanding, I guess, that one size doesn't fit all, making sure all three people can see over the fence. So in the real world, I think we need to get an idea of what that looks like. What does an equitable newsroom look like? Khalida, I do want to come straight back to you here because I want to pick up on some of the things you said. So tell us about some of the things being done at TNN to try and make it a more equitable newsroom, when it comes to things like skills and training, for example.
Yeah, Catherine, we can say that TNN is one of good example, which is, we can say, which has the equitable environment. Because in TNN, we trained a lot of women on digital reporting and women as a bloggers. And in TNN, we have women on good positions. I will talk about myself. I'm on a very good position where I can make decisions. And if we talk about the women, so it's not only the numbers. Like, for example, we have 20 male reporters, for example, and we have 20 female reporters. So it is not like equitable newsroom, but we are providing them the same opportunities. So it is really very necessary for a equitable newsroom. You are not only giving them the chance as their numbers, but you are also giving them the skills. You are giving skills to male, and you are giving skills to the female reporters as well. I think we are more working on women journalists, and that's why our women journalists now, they are increasing their numbers in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which was very low in the start, but in the 3 years as we worked with the Thomson Foundation, and we bring some new faces to the media. And now our reporters, they are not only contributing to TNN, but they are also contributing to different national and international organization. And some of our reporters, they are also getting awards. So I think in TNN, um, we are empowering them by skills and by giving them the opportunities to work and to gain skills and to work on the women issues.
So
Because
that access to opportunity that you're talking about, you mentioned the women bloggers. So these are women who, for whatever reason, can't leave home or work from home. But you're giving them access to an audience and to a job. So you've changed the way, I guess, you would run a newsroom by including these bloggers. Is that right?
Yeah, that is totally right, because in our society, in our province, they are especially women are not allowed to go out from their homes and to work. So TNN as a platform where TNN first gave them the training about blog writing, and now they are contributing with TNN. So TNN skills their polish, and now TNN also paying them for their blogs. So they are earning in their homes. They are in their homes. They are writing and they are contributing. They are highlighting the problems which were not highlighted by the other reporters. So I think it's a great success for TNN.
Thanks very much, Khalida. Nancy, at the start of this discussion, I mentioned that Thomson Foundation's launching a mentorship programme called She Leads Bettina Fellowship. I guess if you hope to create an equitable newsroom, you've got to attract a diverse set of applicants in the first place. How important are role models and mentorship in this? Did you have any role models or mentorship? Has it benefited you?
I've had, and I continue to have mentors. You never get to a point where you think that you no longer need mentors. There's always somebody who's been there, done that. So mentors have been an integral part of my, own growth and professional development as a woman. And it plays such a key role in just having somebody who has a lot more experience and you can speak to freely, and you can be vulnerable to, where you can talk about what's challenging you, what you're not good at, and to help you grow. So this I'm an advocate of mentorship. I don't think that I would have succeeded or even made the sort of strides that I have made if I did not have mentors. And I know that I've been involved in the Bettina mentorship program, the pilot program when this was being piloted, and it was a great opportunity, I think, for me as a mentor, but also for the mentees, because some of the questions that they bring, for us is what you think, who doesn't know that? But they're important, issues around how do I get my voice heard in a room? How do I seize an opportunity to showcase what I can do and what I'm capable of, and just building their confidence. I had, in my previous, and I've mentored for a long time, I'm reminded of one incident where, this particular lady that I was mentoring wanted to start, her own digital platform, and not having the confidence, asking herself, will I get the right audiences? Will people subscribe? Will people like what I am posting? Should I actually do this? And just having that voice that tells you you can do it, that believes in you, that checks in on you and asks you what's concerning you, where you at, was a critical piece of that. So having mentors is great. It's part of the ways in which we ensure that we have equitable newsrooms, and that people have an opportunity to just be able to learn and share. And the critical piece is that whereas newsrooms in their own selves might not be able to provide the mentorship because of the very nature newsrooms. I mean, we are always chasing the big story. The deadlines sometimes make it very difficult for anybody to step back and mentor. Providing time for your team to be mentored by a third party who's not in the newsroom is important. So that in itself is good enough. If we cannot see or find those mentors within the newsroom, is identifying those people for your team externally, or at the very least, recognizing that that's an important part of their growth and giving them the time to be able to attend to that.
You mentioned about women finding their voices. I'm thinking, rather than waiting for someone else to provide you with equity, do women actually need to be shouting a lot louder? Just to give an idea that men are typically more aggressive when it comes to asking for pay rises. I'm sorry, I know that sounds like a stereotype, but but that is what a lot of businesses say, that men are typically more aggressive when it comes to asking for pay rises. So when they go for a promotion, the person interviewing them can see they're getting paid more, and they might assume they're better at the job. Is it up to women, Nancy, do you think, to shout louder?
There is a place for that. And, I must say that, it's something that I'm also learning to do, to not so much to shout, but to, speak and justify or rationalize, why is it that I'm asking for certain resources to be, accorded to me. So for me, it's not just about being loud. It's also what are the facts that you're bringing to support, the reason as to why you'd be asking for certain resources to support you in your work, up to and including, more money or a pay rise in the roles that we are in.
Thanks, Nancy. We've had it's not so much a question, but a comment here from Nagari K, talking about the number of women at the table versus the capacity of women at the table. Khalida, can I bring you in here? Because you applied, didn't you, for a senior role at TNN. How rare are you? How many women are there like you sitting at the table making decisions? I guess not just at TNN, but at newsrooms across Pakistan.
Yeah, so we can see only few women in decision-making positions in the media, in the newsrooms. We have only one woman who is bureau chief. She is from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and we cannot see the women on high positions where they can make decisions, and we can also see very less reporters, female reporters. I'm not talking about TNN, I'm talking about the other newsrooms. They have only one female reporters in their bureaus, so their numbers are very less in the in the reporter level. So how can we imagine like the women's can be on good positions? So their numbers is less, and they are not on good positions in the newsroom. So it is, I think it is very important for women to be on good positions, on high positions, where they can make decisions, where they can work for the betterment of other women. For example, if a woman who is not in the position to take decision, or who is not allowed to take decision, so she will be definitely she will work on those issues which is assigned to her by her editors. But when a woman come to a position where she can make decisions, so definitely she will look at those topics who are ignored, and definitely that topics will be related to women, women health issues, women education issues, gender issues and all these things. So it is really very necessity for women to be in the high positions, but we cannot see women in the high positions.
Okay, thanks very much, Khalida. Nana Elegba, I think we can hear you now, can't we? Can you hear me, Nana?
Yes, you can.
Excellent.
Yes, I can hear you. My apologies.
No problem. We made it in the end. The joys of technology. Nana, you are head of HR, so human resources. You are in a position, I guess, to decide what equity is, because you are one of those senior people setting the boundaries for people you employ. You're in the process, aren't you, at JoyNews, of looking at policies which will promote this idea of equity. And I want to just put to you a question we've had come in from Kinder Melly, who says maybe employers should make equity checklists available for employees or job seekers. It's the way to go. You're looking at this policy now. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, sounds like a great idea to me. If you were to ask me, equity is something that we have glossed over. I would not sit here and pretend that there is equity in our newsroom. If you were to ask me about equality, I would say that yes, we have given everyone the opportunity to shine. But have we recognized that there are particular challenges, some challenges that women face, and gone all out to help women overcome those challenges, which hold them back, which prevent them from taking full opportunity of the full advantage of the opportunities that are available? No, we haven't done so. So for me, the checklist that has been proposed is a great idea. It is something that we should be looking at if we want to close the equity gap.
Is it up to the candidate as well? We've had another question come in here from Dom Hakings saying, if we are to embrace equity, should a job applicant confront their expectations and ask if the company can create that equity ground for them to reach their ultimate potential? I think they're saying that if a candidate applies for a job with you, do you want them to tell you how you can help them do their job better, if you see what I mean?
Yes, that would be great to do that. And that would be one sure way of putting together or getting an insight into the kind of challenges. We may not be aware of all of them. So once we open it up and give job seekers the opportunity to tell us how they would want us to help them bridge equity gaps, I believe that it will be a good starting point. Because once you become aware of the challenges, then you can put in place measures to address those challenges. So yes, I'll be all for it.
I wonder how realistic that is, though, because doesn't actually it rely on whoever is at the top. Change can only be affected if you have managers and a CEO who want it to happen.
Yes, I agree. Fortunately, as a company, we pride ourselves on being an equal opportunities company. And so that means that we do not discriminate, irrespective of gender, race, religion, what have you. We do not. And so once this equity conversation has come to the fore, it is an area that we'll be willing to look at more closely than we have done in the past. And so if it means that we have to engage our line managers a lot more to bring awareness. For me, awareness creation is key if we are going to succeed in this regard. It is key that we get everyone to understand what the issues are, to understand that, yes, there has to be some change. And so I agree with you, it has to start from the top. If there's no willingness at the very top from the CEO level, at the C-suite level, then all of this will just become just mere talk. So in terms of willingness, I would say that at this point in time, as a company, yes, we are willing to have a look at it and then to see what we can do to bridge all the gaps.
We've had a comment here from Bash, who has said, in sub-Saharan Africa, adolescents and young women are 3 times more likely to be infected with HIV than boys and men of the same age. The driving factor is inequality. We must empower our girls and ensure they can complete school. Nancy, can I bring you in here? If we go back to the very start and what I said about equality is giving everyone a shoe, and equity is making sure the shoe fits. Clearly, there are places in the world where women still don't have access to a shoe. Do we still need to be banging on about equality, and is equity a bit of a luxury to be discussing at this point?
Oh, I think it's understanding the different contexts, and then looking at what would be ideal. And when I reflected on, whether it's equity or equality, I think for me both equity and equality have a place. It just depends on, the context that you're in. There will be, instances where all you need is to give people a shoe because they need to get to some point. It may be tight, it may be uncomfortable, but if it can, get them 3-4 kilometers from where they are, and then they can stop there and breathe, that for me would be good enough. I agree that there's still very many places and instances, including the newsroom, where in as much as we are talking about equity, there are also instances where what we need is also equality, just being able to get women through the door and providing them the opportunities, within the newsroom, and then asking ourselves, okay, so now we have them in, where are they at?
So do we need to interrogate then our newsroom cultures, things like working hours and practice?
Absolutely.
Maternity leave, what can change? Those sorts of things.
Maternity, the working hours, the working conditions, the structures within the newsroom, and whether they support or impede, women from growing and advancing. I started off in the newsroom, and one of the things that made it, extremely difficult for me to stay was, one, I wanted to go back to school, but there was just no time. When you think you can enroll into an evening program for a master's degree, that's when the newsroom is at full operation. So I had to make a choice as to whether I wanted to continue being in the newsroom or to step aside and get an education. So it's, what are the structures? What do those systems look like, and who have they favored? Because even when you think about the policies and the structures, because the newsrooms for the longest time have been male dominated, the structures and the systems in place, were set by our male counterparts. So it's important that we look at, who's in that, who are our stakeholders in the newsroom. We now have both women and men, and those realities then lend themselves to us looking at what do our policies say about all this. For example, at the height of COVID, newsrooms, very well embraced the whole concept of a distributed newsroom. So having people working remotely, from their homes. But the reality is, for women, is that it's one thing to build their capacity, to allow them to work from home, but it's another thing to also ask yourself, what is it that's happening when you're putting pressure and deadlines for stories to come in, for example, at 7 p.m. You're preparing dinner, you're helping children, with homework. You're basically settling your family back in. So might it be necessary to also then think about the context in which that woman is working in, to be able to deliver that.
Thanks very much, Nancy. We've got a question here from Tom. Tom wants to know, can diversity limit equity even though there is equality? He actually gives an example. He says, I am from the north. Sorry, Tom, I don't know which country you're in. But he says, I am from the north and working in a company that has majority of its workers from the south. I have been given the same opportunity to work in that company, like those from the south, which signifies equality. But there is no level playing field to allow me to present the news because I am from the north and have an accent. How do we deal with this situation if we are to achieve equity within the same company? I can actually sympathise with you there, Tom. Back in the 1990s when I joined the BBC, I actually changed my accent to get on air. I had to make myself sound a bit posher. Nana, this is maybe a question for HR. When it comes to equality, this person, so Tom in this case, could apply for the same job as everyone else, but their career is limited because of their accent. How do you deal with the nuance of that sort of situation? I mean, you can't really have sort of a policy so targeted, can you? What would you advise, other than, of course, to do what I did, which is change his accent?
This is a tough one, because there are all kinds of constituents that we are targeting. So yes, this person may be brilliant, good at reading the news, but if your audience is turned off, let's say you have carried out a survey and your audience is not in tune with this person's accent, then you would have no option. You would not want to say that in the name of equity and giving everyone the same a level playing field, let me still keep this person on air. Because let's bear in mind that we have stakeholders as a business. So if you have one very important group of stakeholders who are not in tune, then you would have to make some room for changes, which unfortunately would give the impression that there's no equity. It's a difficult situation, honestly, and if I'm hoping if there are any ideas around the table, perhaps the other speakers may want to come up with some suggestions which would be willing to consider. But it's a difficult situation, I have to consider.
It is a difficult one. I'm sorry to put you on the spot with that one. We are getting quite a few comments where people seem to be thinking that equity is just unrealistic and it's almost a form of cheating, which we are going to look at in a minute when it comes to about barriers to do with equity. But on the theme of what we're talking about now, we're looking really, I guess, more towards the benefits to newsrooms of promoting equity. Dr. Booker, can I bring you back in here? Because if we have a newsroom that's done its best to promote equity and responded to the needs of its individual staff, what does the newsroom have to gain from that?
Several things, in my view, Catherine. One is a motivated team, that comes alive, an ambitious team that, would help a newsroom, and particularly now as, newsrooms struggle with, transformations, as a result of technology. You have people who are not scared of or intimidated from learning from their failures or mistakes, and basically what we call failing forward. You have diversity in terms of the different stories, different ways of storytelling, looking at stories very differently, and those diverse voices in content, in news, then are going to resonate with, diverse audiences. So there clearly benefits. You have a team that's motivated, you have a team that feels supported, that can experiment and are committed to the newsroom. But it has to be resourced. There has to be an investment, whether it comes from the newsroom itself or the newsroom partners with organizations that can then, help in resourcing, some of these, aspects that then would support equity. It is important that there is an investment, on the part of the newsroom. So it's not going to come, equity will not come at no cost. It will definitely come at a cost. It calls for an investment, but I think it goes without saying that when you have a team that's motivated, that when employees or the newsroom feels that they're provided with a fair and, an equal opportunity based on their own needs, that they're likely to succeed. And yeah. I will share a personal example. I worked in an organization. I would got into a leadership position, and in a male-dominated sector, which is essentially in the academy, and particularly when you get to looking at chairs of departments and so on. And what the institution did for me at the time was realizing that whereas I was being promoted into this position, I still needed to build my research portfolio, for example. And so part of equity meant that in as much as Nancy is in this position, we need to be able to support her in building her research portfolio. And so I could not go around looking for research grants to support my personal development. But the institution went out and identified, some research grants that I would be part of. And that way then, it gave me a chance to grow my research portfolio and feel confident enough that I could be at the table with my male counterparts who had that privilege, way ahead of me. So it is doable, but it calls for investment, and it just calls for a lot of understanding where your team is and listening to them a lot more.
Thanks very much, Nancy. You mentioned their cost. I think cost implications is one of the key barriers to equity, which will come on shortly. Khalida, I just want to bring you in here, because your newsroom has adapted to cater to very specific needs of women journalists. I wonder if you could just tell us briefly, I guess, what the newsroom's got in return. I mean, Nancy mentioned diverse voices. Are you seeing that? Are you getting new audiences? Are you telling new stories?
So our newsroom has adopted such initiatives, like, for example, we have separate washrooms for female and separate for male. This is not in every newsroom. You will not see the separate washrooms in every office. I'm not talking about the media organization, but I'm talking about all the organization and offices we have in our I'm talking about not specifically on TNN, but other newsrooms. They have no facility of daycares and don't have the maternity leaves. So TNN is trying to be equitable, to give not only skills but also keeping in mind, like, for example, if a woman reporter cannot go to in the night time and cannot interview someone. So TNN is helping them and assisting them, like they can go in the daytime and facilitating them, mentoring them, our reporters. They were not when they do reports. So we have mentors. Women mentors who guide them, like how they can improve their stories, and how they can they can shoot in a very good way. So I think these are some examples where by which we can say we are working on it, and by the time it will be our newsroom will be more equitable in coming days.
Thanks very much, Khalida. Let's pick up then on some of the barriers you mentioned, just sort of basic things in your case, like facilities. We've got a question from James, and it's a question really that a number of other people have echoed. He said, are we not doing ourselves a disservice to think that everyone can have equity, looking at the fact that we all have different influences on how we were brought up? And a couple of other people have said, if there's equity for everyone and I have more potential than you, I will still beat you to the challenge. And that's cheating. Inequality, there is no fairness. This is from Ben Ash. Inequality, there is no fairness. In equity, we are giving every person equal platform to perform, and that's cheating as well. So there doesn't seem to be a lot of love out there for this idea of equity. Nana, I wonder what you think about this. Do you see or do you think there is resentment among some people if they see others getting what they consider to be special treatment in order for them to be able to do the same job?
Well, I would say it seems to me that it's a natural thing in most humans to feel resentment towards others, that when they feel that the others are getting preferential treatment. Having said that, in our space here at the Multimedia Group, I don't get that sense. Maybe because we have not bent backwards to as an organization and from a policy view to make exceptions for women or to help women overcome those challenges. I'm sure that if we were to start making exceptions for women, naturally there'll be one or two people. But then it behoves on us to make sure that we carry everyone along. We let people understand that there are some peculiar challenges that are faced by women just because they are women. I'll give a typical example. You could have a situation where a woman suffers from very painful menstrual periods, and so it's either unable to come to work or struggles when she comes to work. This is a challenge not faced by men. So if we have to let line managers relax and say that, look, you can take the day off, or we have a flexi working schedule, so you can work from home. I don't see why a man should be envious. But of course, it means that we would have to engage people and let people understand that there is why they need we need to let people understand why we have to make some of these exceptions for women. For me, it's all about engaging people and getting people to be aware and getting the mind shift rolling throughout the entire organization.
Nana, if I can put another, well, it's a comment really rather than a question from Igor, who says there should be a need for a national consciousness on achieving equity, else we won't be able to measure the outcome. We talked earlier about the importance of senior managers supporting this idea of equity. But if you haven't got a national policy in place, say, on something like maternity leave, how hard is it for individual newsrooms to implement change?
Yeah, to an extent, it will be hard. Once there's a national policy or there's legislation in place, it helps to smoothing the process. So I'm all for introducing policies at the national level, and even just beyond the policies, passing some of these laws and bills through Parliament so that it becomes binding on all. I look at maternity leave policy, for example. I dare say that if it had not gone through Parliament and been passed into law, there would have been a pushback on the part of some organizations. But now that it's a law, and none of us has we will not be able to push back. We have no option than to implement it. So definitely it will help.
We've had a comment here from Azam pointing out that equity for men as well with paternity leave, which certainly some countries, maybe not all, have started to implement. Nancy, if I can bring you back in, what you mentioned earlier about cost, because there are cost implications too, aren't there? Newsrooms tend not to be flush with money, particularly after COVID. And if rather than having one blanket policy, you start having to cater to individual needs, then is that realistic or even feasible for many newsrooms to do you think?
It is, I think if you look at it at face value, it doesn't look like it is feasible and it's doable. But we must also realize that there are things that you can do to help achieve equity that have no direct cost implication. Or even if it has costs, then they are negligible costs. When we talk about, and I think I said this at the beginning, is one of the ways you could do this is mainstreaming mentorship and coaching within, your policies. So how you do that is you either provide mentors internally, or you identify mentors from other places that can work and support upcoming journalists, or those that actually need to be upskilled. And one of the things that I have learned in when I look for mentors for different people is that people will always be willing to hold somebody's hand and help them. It's just that we do not ask, or we believe that if we ask, they might not commit, or it might be too expensive for them to do that. There are people who are willing to do that, sometimes at negligible or no cost, and they do it out of their passion and the fact that they'd like to grow other people. The other thing that I said is partnering with institutions that offer professional development and training. So one of my important duties as dean of the school is finding grants that then would build capacity for journalists, and we've run several courses at the school that are fully funded. We're currently, for example, running capacity building training on media innovation for large media houses in the region. All the media house has to do is identify the people who need the training and bring them to us. We're not asking them to pay for anything, but it's a sacrifice on the part of the media house that whereas they're not paying for the training, they have these people off-site for 2 days or 3 days at a given time. So it has cost implications, but you also have to think about what's the added value, what's the benefit that this has on my team. And if you're going to respond to transformation and the digital disruption, we have to be willing to invest in experimentation. We have to be willing to invest in, allowing people time to grow and take up courses to unlearn certain things that perhaps, are hindering them from progressing. So the initial costs may be high, but I think the return on investment and businesses have shown, and there's quite a bit of research out there that evidences the fact that businesses benefit when you create an equitable working space, as opposed to a place where, people do not feel that they can succeed because they have certain inhibitions.
Thanks very much, Nancy. Let's go back to this opening question and the question we posed at the beginning: equity versus equality in the media. Have we been wrong all along? I want to ask all three of you, please, just to sort of comment briefly on this. Khalida, would it make things easier for women to become journalists and senior managers in your part of the world if we started talking more about equity more than equality? Or do you think the two go hand in hand?
So I think there should be more opportunities for women. Like as I see, many women they are getting education in journalism. They are getting degrees, but they are not coming to the fields. So one reason is cultural barriers, and the other is they are not having good packages, mentoring, skills, trainings, fellowships. So I think if we work on these, we provide them fellowships, we provide them trainings, mentoring, and so I think there is possibility that many girls and women they definitely would like to come to the field of journalism, and now we can see in these 3 years. Girls are now want to come to the field as a reporters. Some girls talk me and they drop their CVs like they want to be producers. Like for example, if they are their parents is not allowing them to be on camera, so they really want to work on radio side and in the production. So I think if we like more work in these fields. So definitely more girls will be come out, and definitely they will join the field. And one thing is really very important. For example, if they see other girls who are financially stable, who are reporters, who are producers, who are on managerial positions, so definitely it will really inspire them, and they will definitely join the field. So, but these things, trainings and financial stability, economic stability, good packages, fellowships, trainings, these things are very important.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Khalida. Yeah, you couldn't be, you're incredibly right saying role models are so important. Right around the world and at every stage of your career, I think. Nana, what do you think about this? Your HR policies in future, do you think they'll be focusing more on equity or equality?
I would say that we will be focusing more on equality. From where I sit, on equity, I'm sorry. From where I sit, we already have equality to a large extent. As far as equality is concerned, perhaps the challenge may be that not everyone may be aware of the opportunities that are available. So we would have to bring a lot more transparency and also communicate a lot more so that people become aware of the equal opportunities. But beyond providing equal opportunities, which for me is equality, then we would also need to recognize the peculiar challenges that a group of people face. And I'm talking about women in particular, and focus more. For me, this brilliant suggestion which has come up, the equity checklist, is something that I would want to explore a lot more. So once we put in the equity, we put it together, the equity checklist, then it will help us, go all out and help our women overcome the challenges. So I gave an example of someone who may be experiencing painful menses. For example, that would help us to put in place flexi working arrangements, so that it is not about you being present, you being physically present, but the focus should be on your output. So if it is possible for you to work from home, in spite of the challenge you may have, then so be it, so that all the line managers, once we put in place policies, then no line manager will be able to penalize or sanction someone for not coming to work on account of the peculiar challenge they may be facing. So yes, we'll be focusing a lot more on providing opportunities, and that would include even training opportunities, mentorship opportunities, coaching opportunities for women, to make sure that we have a lot more women coming into positions of leadership and sitting at the table. I believe that.
Nana, I've got to interrupt you because we're almost at the end of our session. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry.
Very best of luck with your equality checklist. Nancy, just very briefly, do you think now we should be focusing far more on equity than equality?
I think we should focus on equality and then focus on equity. Give everybody a shoe to get them to point B from A. And then once everybody's at point B, then ask yourself, is the shoe fitting? And who is it that needs, help? Who is it that needs extra resources, extra support to be able to succeed and thrive? So there is room for both.
Nancy, thanks very much for that. Sadly, that is all we have time for. Thanks so much for your engagement today, your great questions, and of course to our panel, Dr. Nancy Booker, Nana Elegba and Khalida Niaz. If you want to be reminded of key points made in this discussion, you can follow Thomson Foundation and JoyNews social media. From me, goodbye.